Hi, my name is Gerhard Schwantner and welcome to Selling Power TV. Today we have the pleasure of meeting with Jonathan Whistman, and he is the sales boss, and he wrote this wonderful book, The Sales Boss.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, good to be here.
That's an acronym, boss, right?
It is. I chose the term sales boss because I was working with sales leaders in an organization. When you ask somebody how they're doing, you never like to hear them say, I'm managing. You'd rather them say, I'm doing it like a boss. But the boss is an acronym for 4 levers that a sales leader can use in an organization to evaluate, one, how they're doing themselves, but also the individual members of their team when they're trying to figure out what's not working or what is working. So it's behavior, outlook, and the outlook can be towards themselves, their industry, their competitor, and then skill. And finally, the last thing is stature. And I found that with salespeople, if you could really start with the right behavior and the right mindset, they always want you to start with the cool things, the skills, but you actually have to start with the behavior and the outlook. And when you get those right, the skills, they know what to do with the skills. And when you get to stature at the end, it's that person that really has weight and significance. They're viewed as a trusted advisor, and that comes from perfecting all those other things.
So what you're saying really is that the outlook or the mindset or the belief system is more important than the skill.
Yeah, absolutely. I have an example in one organization I was working on. It's not just the mindset of the salesperson, it's also the sales leader. In one sales organization, they had as their quota for their salesperson $650,000 a year. And you can probably guess why it was $650,000 a year. It was the best anyone had ever done. And so that became the quota. And I had worked with other organizations, so I had really strong belief that they should be about 1.2, 1.3 in a year. We hired a brand new salesperson, gave them that quota, and just protected their mindset and the outlook from the rest of the team. And within 6 months, they had already achieved $700,000. They went on to go to 1.3 that year.
Wow.
So you guess what happened to the sales organization? Another 10 people. The next year, they were all above $1 million.
Amazing.
And that was simply a mindset,
right.
A belief, and an outlook.
I'm intrigued by the last S, stature. What does it mean?
You know, I think stature, we've all been in a room where somebody walks in and immediately the room knows that somebody of significance has walked in. It's kind of like the old commercial, I might be dating myself, when E.F. Hutton speaks, people listen. And that's what stature is. It's that point in somebody's career where they are no longer viewed as a salesperson or giving advice for their own self-interest, but they're really viewed as somebody that's an expert, and they're sought out because of the significance of the value they'll bring to an engagement. Oftentimes you'll even find somebody that has stature, their clients look to them for advice even outside the area that you might think of them right. as their expertise.
So you're really describing the trusted advisor position.
That's exactly it.
How do you arrive at that level? Because trust is the most important factor that a lot of people overlook before people buy. So what are the elements of trust?
You know, I looked to another book in that regard that defined trust really well, The Trusted Advisor. It's credibility plus reliability plus intimacy divided by self-orientation. That's not my work, but it's the foundation of what it takes.
Right.
How do we have credibility with someone? How are we reliable? And then I think the most important part that most salespeople get wrong is that intimacy, which is how do I show up in a way that's authentic to me, where I don't feel like I have to
right.
pretend? And if I can do that consistently.
Right. Well, there's also research that says when you admit a weakness early on in a conversation, then you put yourself in a position of vulnerability, which increases your credibility.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. So when we think in personal relationships, when we want to be intimate with someone, it's people that we're comfortable.
You disclose.
Yeah.
Yeah, you share something.
That's it, right. Exactly. So right. I think in a sales situation, though, when we're talking about our careers, it's really doing that in an authentic way. Right. It's not just making up a weakness, but it's that ability to just show up and not feel like we have to be perfect. Yeah. And you see salespeople that think they have to put on a radio voice, they have to be flawless, and I say right. they really have to be full of flaws, right. Right. but they just can't be right. fatal flaws.
Right. Right. So when I think of boss, there are really good bosses and bad bosses.
Absolutely.
How do you deal with that when you have a boss that's not up to par?
Well, I think fortunately, organizations tend to self-select, so somebody that's a bad boss eventually ends up out of business, they end up out of the role. I feel like leadership is something that it's an honor and a responsibility to lead well, and that comes down to really caring about the people. In fact, I tell sales managers, you should care more about the salesperson and their life than you care about the results for the company you work for. Because that authenticity will come through. And if I really care about you, and you can tell when I'm coaching you and I'm trying to help you achieve quota, that it's for your purposes, whatever you're trying to build for your family, you by nature will do really well, and the company will do really well. But if I come in and I'm that boss that is hammering for my own benefit, my salespeople disconnect.
So it goes back to Zig Ziglar. You can get anything in life you want, providing you help enough other people get what they want.
That's exactly it. And I think it's easy for sales leaders to lose sight of that because of the pressure. Every month comes quickly. All of a sudden, we're at the end of a quarter, we're at the end of the third quarter. We're getting pressure from our other members of the executive team. They're getting pressure from the board or other directors. We have to make sure that we're not pushing that agenda down to our salespeople.
So I recommend that you get the Sales Boss, the real secret to hiring, training, and managing a sales team by the amazing Jonathan Whistman.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.